All right, Joe, you may start.
Thank you. You have the roll, Bill? You're good with it?
I do. Yes.
Okay. For communications, has anybody heard anything from DEEP that we need to be aware of?
No.
No? Okay. How about the Department of Agriculture? Steve or
sir.
Jeff?
No, sir.
Well, we're on a good roll. Department of Health, Bill?
Nothing for this month, Joe.
Okay, good. Harbor Commission from Jeff, and Jeff's not logged on yet, so we may have to come back to him. And Planning and Zoning, I haven't heard anything from, but I did get a communication from Donald Perizek, who's with USGS doing the soil samples in the bottom of the harbor. And he's asked to get the link to Parks and Rec so that he could possibly moor their boats at the Veterans Dock. He anticipates having 2 boats here. And the other thing he anticipates is having extra samples. And I will get a copy of the letter off to all of you after the meeting is over, so you can see where the sample sites are that he's chosen. And this is again to do the soil studies in the harbor, as well as outside of the outside harbor, as well as the inner harbor. And the other thing I sent out, as I said I was going to do, I said I was going to do it April 1st, but I didn't do it April 1st. I did it April 2nd because of the outages people had. But I sent the recommendations out. And I've already heard back from 4 people, which is good, because that tells me they got them. And I sent them out to the Common Council. And I sent them out to all the representatives and senators for this area, as well as head of the Department of Public Works, Alexis Giorgetti, and Robert Stower. So they all know what's going on with the recommendations.
Joe, could we all get a copy of the final that you sent?
You have it.
Well, no, the ones that we had was still a draft form with some typos and things, and so we helped you with that. And so if there's a chance that you could just forward us what you sent to someone on this.
Diane, I'll forward it to you.
Well, to all of us as part of the record, it's really good, you know.
Well,
important.
do all of you want a copy of what I sent out? Okay, Diane, I'll send it to you.
Well, it should be part of the record, in my opinion, you know, to Bill Mooney, at least as part of our committee's record.
I'll send it to Bill.
It's, and, you know, and myself, I mean, it is an official.
I said I would send you a copy.
Well.
Okay. Old business, Dick Harris.
Yeah,
This is a combination of old as well as new on the PFAS. Go ahead.
okay. Listen, I got a bad case of the hiccups, so if I sound crazy, I'm doing my best, okay? Uh-oh, what happened here?
Bill is getting it on.
Okay.
Is it coming up, Bill?
He's on mute.
All right, thanks, Dan. Yeah, let me try it again. Let me go to screen save and then. Huh. It's coming up on my screen, but I don't know why it's not on yours. Dick, do you have it where you can bring it up?
Really?
Sorry, guys. I don't know why it's not happening.
Bill, do you have to ask to share your screen?
No, I'm doing it from I have a second screen here that I use. I don't know. It's acting. Let me just stop share for a minute. All right. Can you guys see it now? I guess not, huh?
Not yet.
Yeah, let me see.
Well, a strange thing is happening. I'm getting a signal that my Zoom connection is insecure, even though I have strength and all. So I don't know if it's coming from our connection particularly or my computer.
Yeah, I saw that on mine too.
Yeah,
So-
I've never seen that before.
Mine
Yeah.
too.
Let's see if I go. Let me try something else.
I was going to suggest, Joe, that you put the rest of the meeting on and we'll see if we can get this worked out in the meantime.
Let me see. Hold on one more time. How about now?
No. And I'm getting the prompt for the secure connection to Zoom. Oh, here we are. Oh, it popped
Oh.
on and then it popped off
All right,
again.
let me try it again.
But something you're doing, Bill, is making our connection. Okay, now it looks good.
You can see it now?
Yep,
Okay,
all set?
I think so. Go ahead, Dick. Sorry about that.
Okay, I got involved with testing these playing field locations based on a comment by Louise Washer, who came to me and said these playing fields are really bad news. They have high PFAS. There's a bunch of other problems. You can't recycle them. The only place that recycles them is Denmark. They have an 8-year life. People are being injured on them. And as time has moved on, I guess you guys have seen the cases of the baseball players coming down with a rare form of brain cancer, who played on the field in 1980. So that has got a lot of people now digging, probably much more than is what happened in the past. And this first thing I'm showing you here, PFAS, an artificial turf, this is done by a guy named Peasley, and he is a professor of physics at Notre Dame, and he's the world-renowned expert on playing fields. So we got in touch with him and told him what we wanted to do, and he was very supportive. He spent a lot of time talking to us, telling us that we ought to go ahead and run the baseline, that it would be very important later. The fields are not down, obviously, but these are proposed sites, and we did a total of 3 of them. We did one in Norwalk off Broad Avenue. As a matter of fact, here's a picture of it right here. You can see this is the area that the field is going to be held in. And right at the base of the picture is a dual catch basin. So runoff from the fields will go into that catch basin, into a pipe, and flow into the river. So let's see, next slide. There you go. Here is a drawing of the site. And you see we did 4 sites altogether. We did one at the end of the pipe. We did one at the far end of the embayment just before it joins the river. We did one at the 123 bridge, and we did one up at Broad Street Bridge. And there are the results down below, and I'll take a minute with those. You can see that PFOA and PFOS have some pretty high numbers. And the interesting thing here was that site 3 and site 4, which are in the river, also had very high numbers. So you're talking parts per trillion, and everybody says, well, what's that? You know, it's a very minor entity of itself. But the problem is these are forever chemicals. They stay in your body up to 8 years, where something like lead, cadmium, or other heavy metals will go through your system in about 60 days. So that's the danger. So a very small amount will build up over time, and your body does not get rid of it. So what you don't see here, right in that blank spot, I don't know how we left that out. The city now, not the city, the state has now come up with a new set of numbers to manage these products. And we are at 10 parts per trillion for PFOS and 16 parts per trillion for PFAS. PFNA is 12 and PFHXS is 14. So that's our new criteria. You guys remember it used to be 70 parts per trillion? Well, we're off that now onto a new schedule. And if you look at the numbers that are in the surface waters, some of them start to get up pretty high. And this is based on several things. First of all, when Dr. Peasley looked at the aerial map of our site, he noted a fire station up in the let's see, the southwest corner of the property where the fields are going to be. His suspicion is that they have been practicing with foam over the years, and it may have helped build it up in the neighborhood. So that's what you got to deal with there. I'm a little concerned for several things. First of all, if you look at that drawing, the map, you're going to see Kellogg Deering well fields. Back it up. Can you back it up? Kellogg Deering well fields right at the front of where these sites are going to be. In other words, it's between the site and the river. So they're already having problems with various chemicals at that site. They claim that when they've been talked to, that 3 of the wells have been temporarily shut down while they try to deal with the problem. Louise and I tried to get somebody to answer us and talk to us over there. That's a hopeless situation, okay? Because we thought we should at least share the data that we have. And the other thing is, you've got the river. This stuff is going into the river. And you have a large expansive field, which is going to be covered with up to, we think, 3 playing fields. Okay, you can go ahead. The next site we want to show you is Wilton Acres, Allen Meadows over in Wilton. And that's at a site above the school. And you'll notice that where the aquifer is planned, can you move the site up, move the map, the numbers up a little bit? There you go. That's a better drawing of the site. And you can see what we got to contend with there. At the north end of the property, we have community gardens. There's 20 to 30 individual plots there that people use for vegetables during the summer. The thing is going to be built over an aquifer, and an aquarium across the street to the east, to the west. Let's see, though, that would be to the east, has a series of wells right now that they're not using, but, you know, we don't have to be genius to figure that someday they're going to have to do that. And Louise talked to them, and they thought that putting a playing field down was a very bad idea. So if you look at the drawing, this one here does have problems. It's not nearly as bad as the other one, but look over on the right-hand side where it says G. Peasley. This is the guy who said, these are the products you're going to have to worry about in runoff if you put that field down. And every check is his own experience in dealing with runoff from playing fields. So I thought you'd enjoy that part.
Excuse me, Dick. Is there a way that you can make this a little bigger?
I can't do anything.
Oh, I guess, Bill, is there a way that we could magnify it just a little bit? It's really impossible to see it for me. Anyway, I have my glasses on.
It doesn't look like I can right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can get a hard copy after the meeting.
You back it up a little bit, Bill. Back it up.
Up here, back this way?
Yeah, that's it. Okay. You had the data for the next pond down, and this is the data up here on the upper left for the Allen Meadows. So Wilton is obviously pretty mad at us because we made those tests and showed them to their environmental department, and that got a lot of fluff in the system. They got mad. They went out and hired their own consultant who came in and did a similar test. and got, get this, similar results.
All
So
right.
now that's kind of stalemated, and there's 600 people, 650 people who've now signed a petition against the field. It's a hot issue in the town. They're going to vote on it May 3rd, I believe, for the appropriation. But it's a very expensive situation. It calls for a cover, if you can believe that, an inflatable cover. So the price is up in the millions, and the town is not sure they can even get the money. And now they've got this other millstone around their neck on the data. And you can see also we've got a stream that runs around the edge of the property, Getson Brook, Getson Pond, that dumps into the river too. So again, if you look at site number 3, you'll see that we have some concerns about the river. Okay, you can go to the next one. This one is a drainage area for all the fields that are to the south end of Wilton High School, one of which is a turf field. And unfortunately, we were only able to get the outlet of the drainage pond. But it doesn't look too good if you take a look at the Cider Mill retention pond. We got some pretty high numbers there. I would like to do a lot more in that area. I would like to go up alongside their existing turf field and take some measurements, because there are a couple of wells up there, but I was unable to find them, and we had a short time frame. Now, doing these tests is not cheap. They're $295 a piece. They're done by York. York is a very good laboratory. They're state approved. They have federal government approval for doing PFAS testing. And just let me give you a few particulars. This is what we get for each site. In there are 2 collection bottles, sterile, and a pair of gloves. Every site, you have to put on a separate pair of gloves. You have to be sure when you go out that you've got clothing that's not going to shed PFAS, but God help me how you can do that, because almost all of it is impregnated one way or the other. And they drop off the bottles, they pick them up, they take about 5 days, and they have them back to us. They drop them at our doorstep along with the data. A very good outfit to deal with. And I don't know who Wilton got to do their test, but Wilton's group could not go below 2 parts per trillion in their cycles, where we can do that with York. So anyway, I've learned a lot in the last few days. I've learned several things. The main thing is everybody has been caught flat-footed. These problems have been building up slowly in the environment for years and years. People knew about it. Sporadic problems here and there. You kept hearing talk about your frying pan, oh yeah, it might be shedding PFAS, and then that talk would go away. Now it's back. And we're starting to get a lot of concern about parts per trillion. This isn't something that you want to take lightly. And what I want to do now is get some money and go take care of the Saugatuck River and 5 Mile River. That will give us a watershed, a large watershed of 4 different rivers. And I want to get those numbers together and go talk to the state, because the state, talk to Bill Mooney, they're not giving us much guidance. Everybody is kind of trying to figure out what the next guy is going to do. Okay, get this. The EPA came down and they said, all right, we're going to give you some new limits. For PFOS, it's 0.02 parts per trillion. And for PFOA, it's 0.004. And they gave us 2 more. They gave us, let's see, 2,000 for PFBS and Gen X at 10 parts per trillion. Okay, that's wonderful. That they announced last June, and it was called the Health Advisory. In other words, this thing isn't firm. Well, wouldn't you know it? They came back a couple weeks ago and said, oh, wait a minute. Now we're going to give you 4 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS, which is a huge jump. And what's underneath all that is they feel that the local areas, watersheds are not going to be able to test down to the limits of 0. So they have to give them a reasonable target. But there's a hook. The hook is this. That limit goes into effect September of 2024. And you have 3 or 4 months to comply once you get there. So it's a dog's breakfast. The numbers are all over the place. Connecticut didn't get any guidance on their numbers, nor did any other state. So each state has its own limits, by the way. I can just tell you, New York is 10 for PFAS and 10 for PFOA. New Hampshire is 11 for PFAS and 11 for PFOA. So everybody's trying to come up with something that they think will work. Now, I don't know if the state's been able to hit this number, but that's what they've been guided with for the last 6 months or so. And now they have another, this 4 parts per trillion is going to be the deal. They're going to enforce it. So I just want you guys to know that I think we should, as a group, we should fight these playing fields. They are dangerous. And if you had any doubts about that, I guess you all read about the baseball players, right? The baseball players from the Phillies, they played in 1980 and they all died in the 40s with brain tumors of a special kind. And they traced that back to the fields and they found out the fields themselves had over 17 different products. So there you go. And you've got the situation with the soccer team in Washington, D.C. The women there are coming down with various ailments. You have fire departments where a lot of the people in the fire department have cancer. We're just getting there. And the hard thing about all this is it's out there. It's out there, and almost anything you can touch or be involved with, it's in your blood. You got some little PFAS running around there. And the only ways I can see to get it is to cut it off at the source where you can. And the EPA is now doing that with a whole host of products. 2 states, Maine and Vermont, have outlawed playing fields, and everything else that has PFAS, like cosmetics, paper, you name it, pesticides, anything that has a PFAS or PFA component gets stopped at the border. And Connecticut should do that too. But you know what Connecticut's done? We got a different program. We got Bill SB 100 that's making its way through the legislature now to give the town along the coast $75 million to do their own work. Now that's as far as it's gone so far. So think about that. That's all got to be distilled down into some kind of quality assurance program. It's got to be doled out to the towns. Towns have to find out what kind of money is available. This won't be off the ground until next year. I'm quite sure. If it gets approved, I think it will. So Connecticut, again, unfortunately, is behind the 8 ball. Other states are moving faster and they're doing more, but there are 2 things that we can do: cut it off at the source, and we can filter it. And there are filters available that will take it out of tap water. So these are the things that I see. Other than that, it's a huge problem. I don't know how we're going to get our arms around it. I think I got one more slide on there. Oh, I got a couple more. Go ahead. All right. So we thought we'd better take a look at the Norwalk River. And we went up to Farmingville Road in Ridgefield. We got the Cannondale Bridge, the Wilton Y Bridge, Broad Street Bridge, the 123 Bridge, and Wall Street. Take a look at that baby. And if you look at Broad Street in that whole area there, it seems like we've got some kind of a source. It may well be the fire department, who knows? But is this the place where you want to have your wells? You want to put more PFAS in that area? It just doesn't make any sense. So at the same time, we thought, you know what? We better take a look at the Silvermine River. Next slide. And quite a bit better. And it's reassuring to see the Grubbs Reservoir checked out with a 0. John Milton didn't check out so well. And we have traces at Borglum Bridge and Perry Avenue Bridge. And this is why I want to get some money and go on and do the Saugatuck River and do 5 Mile River. And I've already been talking to Westport Shellfish Commission. They're agreeable to doing it. Everybody's wondering where we're going to get the money to do it, because it's about $5,000 by the time you get a preliminary study. That's all you're going to get. However, you should know there's a cheap alternative, and that is Cyclopure. I'll show you what that looks like. Can you see that? No, you need it this way. I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure I can get it. You can see it. There it is. You see that?
Yes.
That's a plastic cup with a filter at the bottom. And the drill you have to do is to fill a cup and put it over a drainage source and let it drain for 20 minutes. It goes through this filter, and then you send the cup in to a lab and they process it for $79 a sample. And yes, it's not certified, but people like the Waterkeeper are using it nationwide. They have, with that type of product, they have analyzed 114 rivers, and 83% of them had PFAS chemicals. Some very high, some low, but present everywhere. And my suspicion is when we go ahead and do the Saugatuck and 5 Mile River, we're going to find the same thing. So again, we're looking for sources, landfills, right? Fire departments, railroad tracks, anything that might have, and fertilizers have this stuff as well. So it's a very widespread, big problem. It's getting worse day by day as everybody starts to understand what the thresholds are. So next problem, you got one more slide? Okay, so we decided to do a little drinking water just for the hell of it. We took one on Louise Washer's house at 280 Silver Mine, and then we took one down at Bloom's Source. And take a look. PFOA 2.28, 2.67. And there again, the check marks for the type of products that you're going to see coming from playing fields. Now, if they have a new source, a new target of 4 parts per trillion, 2.67 already slides under it. So there you are. I think there's a lot more work that has to be done here on deciding how we're going to do this and what the limits are going to be, but it's a huge problem. Any questions?
Dick, has anybody done a comparison with the inexpensive test with a regular certified lab test?
That's what we're going to do next. No, not in our area, Joe. Hey, by the way, before you go, this is a map that's put together by the Waterkeepers, and look at the states around Connecticut, and look what we've done.
Wow.
We're infants. We are infants. And I will give the state credit. They went around and bailed out all the fire departments and the railroad stations and also the airports. They took all that stuff back, and they did set up a new set of standards, and they're trying now to look at drinking water and come up with a new criteria, but they have yet to have the protocol we can use to test with. And that could be very important if at the last minute they say, well, you guys didn't use our protocol. Well, you don't have one out there. Diane.
The reason why the state of Connecticut did quickly move after the spill up off of the airport into the Farmington River was due to environmental groups getting together. And there is a PFAS-free Connecticut coalition. I'm a member of it. If it wasn't for the environmental advocates pushing and giving information and giving the state health department and the DEEP the backbone to help start by reimbursing and getting rid of the foam from the fire departments, they would not have done it. There's a lot of, as you can imagine, pressure from the chemical industry to slow roll all of this, and we know that it's important to get facts together. Unfortunately, the state legislature is still looking at PFAS in a piecemeal way, and the PFAS-free Connecticut Coalition would like you said, stop the sources of PFAS, both in, and we have done also some good work in starting to get rid of it in things like the cardboard food containers you see at a hot bar, that sort of thing. But the paper, but it's slow rolling it. And that's what is frustrating and alarming, how slow each one is going. So anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Anyway, I'm working with Norm. I told him that we were going to stick up in the fresh water and isolate as many sources as we can. and then see if we can get some leverage to get rid of some of this stuff. But it's a hard uphill battle. And to do the Saugatuck River, I'm gonna need at least $5,000, and to do and about the same amount of money to do 5 Mile River too. And I'm looking around, I'll find it sooner or later. And Louise Washer has been very helpful. We've been splitting the cost, a good partner. And she's been handling a lot of these presentations too. So
Diane,
Joe, yeah, we do have some of the, with the cheaper kits, so we're gonna try to do them side by side and see how it works out.
Diane,
So just two quick thoughts. First of all, thank you for lifting up this issue again. Many of us have tried over the years, but this time I think finally we'll get enough. It's safety in numbers here. Moving on this, at the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative Committee, there was a question about actual sampling of shellfish meats. And I guess the agreement was that there would be some certified agency, maybe aquaculture, that would take some samples. Do you know if they've ever done that, Dick, or still?
They're working around Groton and they're working around New Haven, and yes, they are looking at oyster meats, mussels, and a bunch of other stuff.
My second question is that I wanted to let you all know that on my own, I had asked in the Ordinance Committee of the Common Council relating back to the Broad River, the imminent Broad River artificial turf plans. I had requested that there be a pause and also that there eventually be a ban in an ordinance of artificial turf fields going forward. Lisa Shanahan, who's chairwoman of the Ordinance Committee, it doesn't seem like she's willing to do that yet. And I have to have a conversation with her because Norwalk did lead in the state. We weren't the first, but we led on banning plastic bags and plastic straws. I would say that artificial turf is a much more imminent health hazard as well as environmental hazard. And I know that Ms. Shanahan is against artificial turf fields, but it's just, we have many tools in the toolbox, and one of those would be pressing the pause button and putting the Broad River site on hold. We do have 6 or 7 other current artificial fields, and as I said to you, I would like to help with looking at that runoff, polluted runoff. But lastly, I just wanted to say that I had been promised a side-by-side comparison, apples to apples, in a cradle to grave, start to finish cost as well as hazard comparison of natural turf to artificial turf. And I did this years ago. So I just want to let this committee and Mr. Chairman know that I am still pursuing that because it is very important to have facts and data in front of anyone who's a decision maker. And when millions of dollars are proposed for each of these artificial turf fields, in order to do a better job evaluating the facts, they need to make informed decisions, as I know you all agree. So I do think that I would love, Dick, if you're willing, I would love to see the hard copy of your work. I could not see it on my screen. I don't know how to make it bigger on my own. So I'd really love
I'll be glad to show it to you.
Okay.
Plus all the data we've gotten from York.
Yeah, but also make sure that if anyone's listening on this, what EPA has been proposing are drinking water standards. I don't believe they've yet proposed surface water standards.
And so far, all it is drinking water, but that's bad enough.
Well, no, I mean, I just think it's important to distinguish that.
Diane, I do believe they have standards they're looking at for recreation. Because I was on the EPA site today and they had a recreation site listing. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, if that gets raised or lowered or stays the same. Okay, Dick, thank you.
welcome.
Joe, this is Jeff. Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yes, sorry for being late and missing the first part, but I don't know enough about this as you all do, but did someone talk about what DEEP's involvement is and interest in all of this, and how DEEP is pursuing the proper regulation, or are they not? What is DEEP's involvement so far?
What I'm aware of is that their involvement has been at the administrative level. The governor has formed a committee with the head of the health departments, as well as the head of DEEP. And there's 2 or 3 other heads that are put on the committee, and that was on a webinar that they posted. However, I have not seen any action taking place from that. And that's what concerns me, as well as a few of us here. You can talk a lot, but until something gets done, it's of no use.
You were talking about Diane, maybe you're talking about the Connecticut legislature, but if there's a legislative initiative that needs to be pursued, that would go through the Environment Committee, and DEEP has a principal role in the Environment Committee in supporting bills. And I just wonder what DEEP's role in this, in terms of achieving some appropriate state regulation, state law, or state regulation, if anybody's working on that. And if not, why not?
Jeff, I already pointed out that SB 100 is a bill for $70 million to go to the coastal cities, do their own setup and their own preventive measures. But there has been no, it's come out of the Environment Committee. Whether it's going to be approved or not, I don't know. They think maybe it will be, but that whole thing has to be worked out, and how that money is going to be distributed, under what circumstances, what type of quality assurance programs. And my guess is there'll be nothing happening there till next year, if it gets approved.
But there is a bill that's been introduced to address the problem.
SB 100.
Okay,
$70
that's
million
my
bucks.
question. That was my question. Thank you.
Diane, you had your hand raised.
No, I just wanted to echo what you had said about the State Health Department and the DEEP. I attended a meeting right before the pandemic. The health director in Norwalk was there. I saw people from all walks of life, including the American Chemistry Council. A lot of people interested in this for various reasons. One thing I would love us to consider for our next meeting, after we all gather more info, is possibly a group letter to the mayor and city council about number one, putting a pause on any future artificial turf fields, but also we are concerned that people receiving public drinking water should be given the opportunity for some monies to go towards reducing the price of, and you've mentioned this before, Mr. Chairman, and a lot of us have, is what do we do now? We can't wait 2 years. How can we protect people who might be getting teeny tiny doses, possibly through their public drinking water sources? Also, we do have a lot of people listening may not know this, but Norwalk, about 22% of Norwalkians households still are on private drinking water wells, where I suspect there might be less of a chance that there would be PFAS contamination, but it all depends on land use above the ground and how it flows. There needs to, I feel, to be a more immediate review of how can we assure our citizens that their drinking water is safe. And I'm saying this because, as you know, what brought me to Norwalk back in the early 80s was the well field, the Kellogg Deering well field, for a different chemical, and that is being treated with carbon filter. But I think currently, like on Silvermine Avenue, where Miss Washer lives, there is a blending at some point in the pipeline of well water with reservoir water, and that place has to be clarified. And I have spoken to the health director about this. So I am inquiring as to what has been found about that very topic, is the blending of well water with reservoir water.
Diane,
Yes, sir.
can we ask Bill to run that past Deanna? If she has that information, or whether it has to go through DPW.
What DPW has really nothing to do with it. It's a health department matter. I will forward to Bill and you and the group my email to Deanna about this very topic.
Okay,
All right.
but the DPW does know where most of the pipes and sewers are in this community. At least they're trying to catch up to it, so
Yeah.
they may be able to help.
Hmm.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Diane,
Yes.
it's all yours now.
Well, okay. The MS4 permit, the way the state handles the permits is that they want each town that has to file such a permit for stormwater management to send in their plans for the year with reports of how things went the previous year. And it's kind of it's been seemingly a loose system. I don't, for instance, if the city is late on their report, I don't believe, unless it's by months, the state will do anything about it, or they won't fine a city or town. They just want to make sure the towns are doing their MS4 work, which is a permit for stormwater. My understanding is that, and I did glance at this year's draft that the Public Works Department put together, and it was pretty much the same wording as the previous year. And that is the source of what I utilized for the presentation I made on the 5th of January to this fine body about some suggestions about how to enhance and improve the MS4 plan. And so I earlier today forwarded that. I mean, I made sure everyone received it in February and March, but I just, because I know I get so many emails, just for reference, I forwarded it again today, but I have it in front of me. I wanted to know if anyone has read it, and I would love to see this group possibly just state that our committee is committed to working with the DPW and the city in the future. Stormwater is very important, and here are some suggestions made over the last year. And those are in purple font in the attachment I sent all of you. Any questions?
Diane, I did see it, I did read it, and I agreed with everything you had. I don't know what you mean by working with them. We can offer suggestions to them, but they are ultimately their own department. And we can be open for more suggestions and some guidance, but that's it. We're not going out and digging trenches with them or opening up, sewer lines with them. I think we want to be careful how we handle that.
Of course, that's simple. I mean, we're an advisory body, and most of us all have some form of professional background. Most of us, all of us, I think, in some way. And it's just advice. That's what is meant. Advisory, working with them means advising and making sure they know we support, their work, but we also have some, I think, good advice That's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, what you had, I know I personally didn't have a problem with.
Mhm.
So it's up to anybody else whether we can stamp it with the Water Quality Committee. And if everybody is good with that, we can do that. But the other thing is, and I strongly encourage you to do this, is you can send it up as a private citizen too. And you can say, as a member of the Water Quality Committee.
Right. I understand that. But the thing is, just as a member of the committee, I have put this together, as we all do. We spend our time to try to help. And I would love if, unless there are opposition to these suggestions in purple, these are just suggestions. We're not telling anyone to do anything, but we're
Right.
suggesting just that they look at them. For instance, employ a whole of government approach to working on water quality issues. I mean, that's just a management suggestion, and include optimize public health notification and outreach goals throughout the document that they put together with a consultant in some of their years in doing it. They have said that they have done public education, but many of us in this committee, when I, have been working on this since last year, haven't really, we feel that public education process could be greatly enhanced, and we would be happy to help with public education, as some of us have. So, I mean, these are fairly straightforward suggestions, nothing controversial.
Steve or Dick or Jeff? Comments?
Well, I read what you did and I had no problem with it.
Steve?
No, it's really straightforward. It's pretty well done.
So can we stamp it as Mayor's Water Quality Committee?
Why not?
Do we make a motion and then vote?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we forward with, of course, the caveat that we are an advisory committee and we are just making suggestions, that we forward this to the chief, as well as a copy to the mayor and the Common Council president, who has a lot to do with funding any changes in stormwater management.
Okay, and you can handle that?
Yes, I can, once you approve with a vote.
Can I have a second?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We have some discussion first, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I don't, you guys are okay with it, it's fine with me, but do you also want to add, and I guess maybe this goes without saying, that we also anticipate providing other additional information as we have more information, and something like this isn't the only thing that we're going to might submit. Just like in the
Yes.
Harbor Commission and Shellfish Commission letters, we always say we reserve the right to provide additional information or additional comments and recommendations as additional information is available. So it's like an ongoing process.
Friendly amendment, I accept it. That's a good idea.
Seconded.
All in favor of the amendment? Okay. Jeff, are you in favor of that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
so are we good with that, Diane?
Did we vote on the original amendment? I mean, the original? I don't think
Yes.
we did. Oh, we did? Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Okay, and the next item, Diane, when you look up the city of Norwalk,
Yeah,
there is a public number to call if you have any problem.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they then divert the call or leave a message or whatever to whatever department is appropriate for that problem. having said that, with something like that available, how much of a guide do you perceive putting together for developing, for who to contact over water issues? Go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay, so because we know how complicated water issues can be, I'm very familiar with the citizens, I'm not calling it citizen service department or division. And they're wonderful folks. They get it from all sides, but they will not know to ask certain questions. And I think it would behoove us to have some more details in order to make sure that we can refer said concern to the right either authorities or zoning enforcement officer or the feds or the state. And so it was just right before the meeting because I had a very busy month. I just wanted to suggest that maybe we form a subcommittee, an ad hoc subcommittee, so it'll have a sunset, where we look at how other people handle citizen concerns or concerns and complaints. I think we need a more specific form than what, and we could maybe share that with the Citizen Service Center, but they are not trained for each of the departments. For instance, if they were to come to us or to the health department or to the planning and zoning, everyone has their own loose forms. But I think in water, I found when I used to be a regulator and I looked up many different states' complaint forms or concerns, there's little pieces of each of them that I think would make for an easy user. We want a user-friendly process, of course. And we also want to make sure if someone wants to be anonymous, that there is a way to do that. And most of the states have a way of doing that where we might keep their name and we have to talk to Corporation Counsel, but we might keep their name on file in a private file. But I mean, there are ways of having anonymity with citizen concerns. But I think we need more detail because it's, for instance, I made up some notes. Where can they describe what they're looking at? Where are they seeing it? Is it, there's an oil, rainbow colors on the water. Is it coming from a pipe? Is it coming from this or a boat or a, you know, a hole in the ground? These things can all help. And by prompting them, they may then give us enough information to help us move it along properly so that, you know, that way we'll be more efficient and effective. We'll know whether it should go to Alexis or to Bill Mooney or to the state of Connecticut or beyond. So I guess I'm asking, what do you think about, what does the group think about after tonight, just who is interested in, first of all, do we feel we need such a process? I, for one, do. Number two, we can make it as, we could do surface water versus groundwater, or we could do salt water versus fresh water, or that could be, I suggest a very easy checklists, user-friendly, so that one form will do it all. And that's what we used to use up at DEP. DEEP, they have a checklist. And that helps cover some of the ground that you wouldn't think of asking if you're in the Citizen Service Bureau.
Well, gentlemen, Diane already had, I'm not leaving you out here, Diane, when I say gentlemen, because it's all gentlemen who are otherwise on this committee.
I know.
Good day.
Except for Louise, and she's not here.
Yep.
It's up to you guys what you want to do. And
I would need to think about this more, Mr. Chairman. I'm not opposed at face value. I just haven't really thought about it, but thank you, Diane.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, this is just the beginning of a conversation.
So if you are interested, contact Diane and you can go from there.
Fine.
Okay? Okay, do we have any members of the public that have comments?
I don't see any, Joe, no.
Okay. I sent you the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any changes that have to be made from that? As far as you're concerned? None?
Fine.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second, Dick's there. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent. And finally, the next meeting is, believe it or not, I screwed up. No, it is. It's May 4th. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second,
Second.
Bye,
Second.
everyone.
I hope you might be able to get over to hear Louise's presentation. Have a good night. Steve and your gang, I'll see you shortly.
Good night, all.
Thank you. Good
Right.
night. y'all.
Right.